Good morning. Good morning. What is happening, man? I hope you guys are doing fantastic out there. Couple of things real quick. Normally, this show goes live inside of our group, the Insurance Syndicate, but Facebook has decided that they do not want third-party streaming apps happening in groups. They'll let me do it here on my personal page. They'll let me do it on LinkedIn, plenty of other places, but can't do it in Facebook groups anymore. So we are working on some workarounds for that to get this show back in the group. We will post the recordings in there, and certainly recordings will still go out to our YouTube channel. But for today and the probably near foreseeable future, I'm just going to drop this on my page. You can also follow this on LinkedIn. I do stream it live there as well. But for now, here I am. So hope you guys are doing fantastic. We are going to talk about Medicare. I mean, that's generally what I talk about on this show, among a few other things, training within the insurance world, sales environments, etc., some personal development stuff. But for the most part, we're talking about Medicare. And we definitely have some news to talk about Medicare today. The Department of Health and Human Services just dropped the Social Security and Medicare Trustees report. And we're going to talk about that. So we're going to point out some things in it, run through some of the details on it. I also want to look at some alternative, maybe opinions on that report release. And then we're going to get into a Kaiser Family Foundation report on Medicare, some really good key statistics that I think will help you not only understand your marketplace better, but certainly maybe some of the products that you should be positioning to the right people. And then finally, some details maybe on the AHIP dropped recently regarding Medicare supplement or Medigap policy enrollments. And then I want to maybe take a look, if we have time, where some of this is coming from and kind of the evolving senior market, some statistics that are out there, basically on where we're all headed as far as what the Medicare beneficiary is going to look like in the next 10 years. To kind of give an example of that. And I'll probably pontificate a little bit here and there. But as always, this show is sponsored and brought to you available by MetaZeus. MetaZeus is a reporting platform out there for insurance agents to better monitor their Medicare policies that they get on the books, right? Primarily Medicare Advantage as well as prescription drug plans. But very simply, it gives you real-time reporting. Most of the times you won't find out if you lost a policy or an enrollment on Medicare Advantage or prescription drug plans for a couple of months, maybe even 3 months before the carrier actually gets real reporting to you on that, whether it's in the form of a chargeback or something else. But MetaZeus will let you monitor your book in real time, and you'll find out 24 to 48 hours if that plan has been replaced by something else. And maybe you can reach out to that client, find out maybe, hey, where you went wrong with your enrollment with them, or, help them save it if maybe changing their plan isn't really in their best interest. So thank you, MetaZeus. And they were actually out at the Invictus conference that was last week. I don't know if you guys have seen that. It seems to be trending on Facebook right now, but the Invictus conference is the only Spanish language insurance conference out there. And MetaZeus came sponsored. They actually sponsored a whole bunch of free tickets so that agents could come and enjoy the event. And they were on the scene talking about their platform and some new things that they have coming out. So MetaZeus has some pretty big stuff up their sleeve. They're going to be putting out some really cool tech that's going to help us all in the industry quite a bit, which for any of you beneficiaries that might be tuning into the show, since it is public on my page, it's going to help. It's going to trickle down to you, and it'll help us better serve you. But with that said, let's jump into this report real quick, man. Let me get this on the screen real fast. What is up? This is straight from the Department of Health and Human Services, right? And they just dropped this report yesterday, as it says here, for immediate release. And it basically says, hey, Treasury releases the Social Security Medicare Trustees report. This obviously goes through all the financial details of both Social Security and Medicare. And unless you've been living under a rock, Medicare is a constant political football, especially in election year. And it's always the time of year that subjects like this get really, really hot. And again, unless you've been living under a rock, you know that Social Security and Medicare have been facing solvency problems, for years. And now this report is coming out to tell us that, hey, you don't need to worry. Medicare's got more money now, and we're going to be able to keep paying the hospital trust fund, the Social Security, the disability payments, etc., to what looks like 2035. And I'm going to run through the fact sheets. Now, I'm not going to read this little article to you. It basically just says, hey, it summarizes some of the stuff in there. And then and I will post this article in the Insurance Syndicate group. So for you guys that are members that might be listening, you will find it there. And then in this article, you can actually find the full Social Security report and the full Medicare Trustees report, as well as a fact sheet. And I am going to run through the facts with you that are on there. And we're going to look at a couple of items that another news article pointed out that aren't necessarily listed in these facts. And then we're going to go through a couple other reports to help you out and kind of give you some scope on where we're headed in the Medicare space. That's pretty much it. So moving right along, I'm going to jump into this fact sheet for you real quick. So we are now sharing that. I'm not sure if you can see it or read it on the screen there, but I'm going to go through it pretty simple. It's pretty streamlined. But again, this is specifically for the 2024 Social Security Medicare Trustees Report. And it says, based on our estimates, this year's report shows that the Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund will be able to pay 100% of scheduled benefits until 2033. So that is 9 years from now. So basically for the next almost decade, they feel confident that they will be able to pay 100% of the benefits. However, the fund's reserves will become depleted and continuing programs will be insufficient or will only be sufficient to pay 79% of the total benefits after 2033, which certainly creates a problem there. How they got to figure out how to change that could be, well, I'll save it for later. The next little paragraph here says that the Disability Insurance Trust Fund, so this is everybody getting disability insurance, SSDI, etc. This is projected to be able to pay 100% of total scheduled benefits through at least 2098. Wow. So that's a very positive prediction there. And that is the last year of this report's projection period. They only projected it out to 2098, but they said, hey, we can pay 100% of disability payments all the way to 2098. So certainly pretty solvent when it comes to the Disability Insurance Trust Fund. Next little statement here says, if the Old Age Survivors Insurance Trust Fund and the Disability Insurance Trust Fund were combined. So instead of keeping them separate, they're saying, hey, if we actually combine those, we would be able to pay 100% of all scheduled benefits to 2035. So it increases the OAIS Trust Fund or OASI Trust Fund originally from 2033 to 2035 if they can include that disability money in there. However, that is a huge disadvantage to the Disability Insurance Trust Fund portion because their projection was they could pay all the way to 2098. So if you combine that with OASI, then that would only be allowed to be able to pay till 2035. So kind of a negative if they actually combine those two. I don't know that they really would. That would require a change in law to then combine those into one payment to then pay out from there. Next, it says that the hospital, right here at the bottom, the Hospital Insurance Trust Fund, this is your Part A of Medicare. So if you happen to be a Medicare beneficiary listening to this, your Part A of Medicare is backed by the Hospital Insurance Trust Fund. That will be able to pay 100% of total scheduled benefits until 2036. That is 12 years from now. And that is actually 5 years later than they reported last year. Last year, they said that, hey, the Hospital Trust Fund is going to go broke by 2031. Now they're saying, no. It's going to be good till 2036. So you got another 5 years that your Part A is going to be good. But it says at that point, starting in 2036, the fund's reserves will start becoming depleted and continuing the program will be insufficient to pay 89% of scheduled benefits. So obviously they're going to have to make some kind of change in order to continue paying 100% of the benefits come 2036, or maybe they increase the co-insurance portion. Maybe they increase some of the premiums on Part A, or Part B. Sorry. Maybe they do increase the premiums for people that don't get Part A for free. Maybe they just increase our taxes. Something's going to have to change, though. Next one. The Supplementary Medical Insurance Trust Fund. This is your Part B of Medicare. So again, if you're a Medicare beneficiary listening to this for any reason, this is your Part B of Medicare is what they're talking about. The Supplementary Medical Insurance Trust Fund is adequately financed into the indefinite future because, unlike all the other trust funds, its main financing source, enrolled beneficiary premiums and adjusted federal contributions from the Treasury, are automatically adjusted every year. So if you are a Medicare beneficiary listening to this, and certainly if you're an agent out there serving Medicare beneficiaries, you know that they adjust the amount of the Part B premium every year to fight off inflation, claims loss ratio, utilization rates, etc. So usually that Part B premium goes up. I've been in this business for 20 years. I've only ever remember seeing the Part B premium go down once. And I remember, I believe when I started in this business, it was like $94 and change, $94.50, $98.50. It was under $100. And then it was $105, and it stuck at $105 for a long time. And now, as we know, it's up to $177.40. So, or $174.70. I can't remember now. Get all my numbers arranged, but it's certainly more expensive. And as that fund becomes depleted, they obviously just raise the Part B premium. They raise the Part B deductible to help offset those extra costs. So moving along here, it says that the projected long-term finances of the combined OASDI fund improved this year primarily due to an upward revision in the level of labor productivity over the projection period and a lower assumed long-term disability incidence rate. So they're having fewer long-term disability problems where they would have to pay out more disability claims, right? And they're getting an upward momentum in labor productivity. Basically saying that more people are working, less of them becoming injured. Fairly simple. Further on, it says that the projected long-term finances of the Hospital Insurance Trust Fund also improved this year relative to last year. This improvement was due to several factors, including a policy change correcting the way medical education expenses are accounted for in Medicare Advantage rates starting in 2024. It also includes higher payroll tax income, resulting in a stronger than expected economy, and actual 2023 expenditures that were lower than projected last year. So basically, the Hospital Trust Fund has been propped up by one. They've corrected some ways in how they pay for medical education when it comes to Medicare Advantage rates. I'm not fully privy to those numbers, but certainly higher payroll tax income has helped prop up Medicare or the Hospital Insurance Trust Fund or Medicare Part A Trust Fund, and that the expenditures were actually lower than projected last year, which I find interesting because all of the Medicare Advantage carriers are saying that expenditures are higher than they projected from previous years. Medicare here is saying that their Hospital A Trust Fund expenses were lower than in previous years. The change in the projected long-term finances of the Supplementary Medical Insurance Trust Fund, that's the SMI Trust Fund, from last year's report varies over the projection period. For Part B, the long-range projections as a percent of the GDP are lower than those projected last year, all the way through 2056 and thereafter, right? So again, because the Supplementary Medical Trust Fund is adjusted every year through Part B premiums, Part B deductibles, that one is certainly a little more fluid, a little more solvent. There is a statement right here at the end that says for Part D, your drug plans, right, your drug benefits, the expenditure share of GDP is projected to be higher than last year early in the projection period and continue to vary, but become more similar to last year's estimates later in the projection period. These changes largely reflect revisions to drug utilization, enrollment, and GDP projections. So for all of you that have been concerned that Social Security and Medicare are running out of money, well, this report says otherwise. This says that you're going to continue to get 100% of your benefits at least until 2023, possibly even longer. So good news. Now, Reuters, I'll pull this article up by Reuters real quick. Reuters has some different statements. Well, they have same thing. I mean, their title is pretty simple. U.S. Social Security, Medicare get a slight boost from a strong economy, right? And then most of this article is going to reiterate and summarize everything that I kind of mentioned off in that fact sheet. But there's a statement in here that, certainly the fact sheet doesn't talk about. And it's right here around the middle way down. It says that the baby boomer generation retiring, Congress will ultimately need to strengthen the program by raising revenues, reducing costs, or cutting benefits. The Biden administration has rejected benefit cuts. So they're not cutting benefits in Medicare, right? They're saying, no, we're not going to do any benefit cuts this year, but they have proposed raising payroll taxes on Americans earning over $400,000. And then it says currently the maximum income subject to paying Social Security payroll tax is $168,600. So now they want to increase that to people even over $400,000, which certainly should help prop up Social Security and Medicare, particularly the OASDI funds that are out there. So, I already said it earlier, if something has to change because Medicare spending is certainly very high, and I'm about to show you that it's only going to get worse. And I'm going to show you why it's going to get worse so that you kind of understand why is the Medicare spending so much higher now than it has been before. If these rates have gone up, right? And if the economy is stronger and all of this is true. And I'm not saying it's not. I want to point out where you're going to see, and my guess, you're going to see some changes in premiums. Certainly your Part B premiums are going to go up. I would say we're going to see some payroll tax changes in the next years, if not very soon, to offset some of this. But what I really want to show you is why. So let me grab these slides real quick. Bear with me just a second. And let's take a look at the evolving senior market. And I apologize. When I uploaded these slides to StreamYard, it shuffled some of the words because they don't quite fit in. But you should still be able to read it, see it, and kind of understand what's going on. So the first thing I want to look at is life expectancy in the senior market, because this is certainly true. Life expectancy and disabilities. Now, the good news, and real quick before I jump into this, I got all of this data from a variety of resources, including census data, and I have, if you want to see it in my sources, I'll show them to you. It doesn't matter, but I got them all from Kaiser Family Foundation, census data, Health and Human Services, Pew Research, Deft Research. So I definitely didn't just pull these out of thin air. I did some pretty heavy research when I put these statistics together. So number one, life expectancy and disabilities. Good news is life expectancy when you turn 65 is going to grow by almost a year. It's 19.3 currently, right? Or as of 2010, people that were 65 and older were averaging 19.3 years after they turned 65. But now in 2030, it's going to jump to 20 years, little 20.1. So good news is we're living longer, right? Our life expectancy is longer. Bad news, though, their expected years of living with a disability when you hit age 65 is going to increase more, going from 7.5 years in 2010 to 8.6 in 2030. And it says that both trends are more pronounced in women. And some of these facts that I'm about to drop on you from Kaiser Family Foundation after this little slideshow are going to help you understand why that is. I'm going to remove the overlay real quick to help make sure we can see more of the slide. And again, it shuffled, it kind of reformatted these. So some of the words, like you can't see that it's both trends are more pronounced in women, but that is what the slide says. Moving along, there's shifting risk factors going on, right? Basically, we're all getting sicker. We're all getting less healthy. Pretty simple. So, hey, and we got a comment. Thank you, Stephanie Wilson. I appreciate that. Thank you for tuning in today. So there are some shifting risk factors going on. In 2010, 28% of Medicare beneficiaries were obese. But by the time we get to 2030, 47% are projected to be obese. That is almost a 100% increase. Now, I know that the term obese, they're very broad or very generous in what they call obese. I mean, I lost 25 pounds recently. Before that, and I wouldn't have considered my fat or obese, but I would have qualified as obese, level 1, right? There are 3 levels of obesity. There's obesity class 1, class 2, and then there's what they call extreme obesity, which is class 4 or class 3, sorry. So again, on the general term, it's almost going to double, right? From 28% of Medicare beneficiaries in 2010 to 2030, 47% will be projected obese. Extreme obesity, that's the top level of that, is going to more than double, running from 3% to 7%. And then obesity class 2, that's the one squeezed in the middle. You know, you're pretty big, but you're not extreme, right? That class is going to double as well, from 7 to 14%. So in general, obesity is almost going to double, and it's going to more than double at the extreme level. And in the middle level, it's definitely going to double. So your Medicare beneficiaries are definitely, they're getting larger. I don't know how else to say it. Chronic conditions are on the rise. All of your major chronic conditions, high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, stroke, lung disease, these are all going up. How much? Well, let's look. Hypertension is going to go from 67 to 79%. And this is, again, based on age 65 plus. Okay, this is 65 years old and older, right? Hypertension is going to jump from 67 to 79%. That means that almost 8 out of every 10 people over age 65 by the time we get to 2030 are going to be a box of nerves, man. Hypertension, they're going to have high blood pressure, right? Fast heart rates, things of that nature. Heart disease is going to go from 36 to 43%. Look at diabetes, almost doubles, 24 to 39% in 20 short years. Now, if you're a guy out there that's a Medicare agent and you're writing Medicare supplement policies, 2 of those first 3 stats should trigger something in your brain. Because hypertension and diabetes is a comorbid knockout on most Medicare supplement policies. Certainly, there are some ways you can still get it approved, based on proving that it's controlled, right? There's no more than 2 meds with no changes in 2 years, something like that. But think about that. If 80% of them are hypertensive, or almost 80%, 79, and 40% of them are diabetic, you're going to run into some underwriting issues a lot more often when 2030 comes with Medicare supplements, which means that either A, to get the business, Medicare supplements are going to have to open up their underwriting more. And if they do that, that means they're going to accept more claims. And if they're going to do that, that means their rates go up, right? Or they're just going to decline more people, one of the two. Cancer, a little bit of a rise from 21 to 26%. Stroke, 14 to 19%. And lung disease, 14 to 16%. That lung disease increase is not very much. It's a lot lower than it has been in previous years. And a big part of that is because there's not as many people smoking nowadays, which is certainly nice. Now, Medicare beneficiaries with 3 or more chronic conditions. Look at this number. 3 or more, not 2, 3 or more. That's a hypertensive diabetic with heart disease, for example. Right? Not uncommon. I mean, especially when you look at this last slide, not uncommon. A hypertensive diabetic with heart disease, you run into them almost all the time already, and it's only going to get worse come 2030. So look at that number. 26% in 2010 had 3 or more chronic conditions. Come 2030, it's going to go 40%. So almost half of the people that you talk to in 2030 that are age 65 or older, 4 out of every 10, which is 2 out of every 5, 2 out of every 5 are going to have 3 chronic conditions, which means they're going to struggle with getting approved for any underwritten type of health insurance product, right? That's going to be a struggle for a lot of them. It's even sharper if you're a non-Hispanic Black. It's going to go from 31% to 48%. And for Hispanics, it's going to increase 23 to 39%. Almost double in the Hispanic space. Almost double. So either underwriting on health products has to change, or rates will go up if they do change it, right? Those two things have to go hand in hand. If you open up underwriting, rates go up. So, and if I don't know any other answer. This greater prevalence of chronic conditions will also mean that more older Americans are living with at least one limitation to their activities of daily living. Currently, it's 24%, or not currently, but as of 2010, because I did a 20-year spectrum. Back in 2010, it was only 24%. Now it's only going up to 26%. But I mean, look at that number. That's 26%. That's almost 3 out of every 10 people that you talk to have at least one limitation to their activities of daily living. There's 6 of them. I don't know if I have all 6 memorized, but that's eating, dressing, bathing, toileting, transferring. There's one more. I just can't think of it right now, right? But they can't do at least one of those. Can't dress themselves. They can't toilet by themselves. They can't bathe themselves. They can't transfer out of bed to a wheelchair themselves, or out of the wheelchair to another stool by themselves. 26% or 20. I mean, it's basically already there. A quarter of the marketplace can't do at least one of those things. Medicare spending is increasing faster since 2020. Like, no kidding. Of course it is. And I want this little graph here. And I can't remember exactly where I got this graph. I think I got it from Kaiser, because I get a lot of my data from Kaiser Family Foundation. But you'll see this little difference in shade here, right? It's a little darker blue on this left-hand side, and it's a little lighter blue on the right-hand side. And that little point that's orange, where it dips before it cruises back up, that is the year 2020, or technically 2021. Sorry, that's 2021 and up, right? So that 1 year prior to it, that little pitch there where it's really high and then it drops and hits 2021 and starts back up, that's COVID. And that's when they froze changes in some of the cuts that they wanted to make to doctors. This is also the period of time that people were like, no, I am not doing elective surgeries. I'm not doing my knee surgery, my shoulder surgery, my back surgery, my neck surgery, whatever it is. I can go a little longer with this pain. I'll go do it. So utilization rates dropped that year. And because of that, we saw a little bit of a decline in Medicare spending. Look how sharp the curve is leading up to 2020 before COVID hits, and then they have the utilization drop, and then it takes off again in 2021. And I think it's actually worse personally. Now, according to that report that we just looked at, it says that it's lower than they expected. I really struggle to believe that, because I know, based on all of the Medicare Advantage carriers showing losses in the fourth quarter of the last 2 years in a row, major losses, that there was an increase. There was a higher than expected increase in utilization. And that's from all the people that didn't do their elective surgeries during COVID and then decided, nope, now it's time to go back and get my knee surgery. So you have all the people that are sick from COVID, still sick from it. They're needing it. You have people that are getting sick on the regular, like normal. We know, that normally happens. We have normal sickness in there. And then we have all the people that delayed all of their utilization during COVID and then now decided, hey, time to go get that stuff. So I struggle to actually buy into that Medicare spending is all of a sudden shored up a little bit more. But, I'm just a guy reading reports. What do I know? But definitely Medicare spending is increasing faster since then. And let's look at some actual numbers on it. So these shifting health trends and this medical inflation is going to contribute to higher spending per Medicare beneficiary. Spending from beneficiaries is going to grow by a factor of 1.6. So to help you kind of figure that out, if you're not a math genius, spending per beneficiary is going to go up 1 times 1.6, right? That's a lot. In 2010, average total lifetime Medicare spending was $131,000. So in 2010, the average lifetime spending per beneficiary was only $131,000. By 2030, it's going to go up 72% to $223,000. That's just a little shy of 100%. That's a pretty big jump. So the combination of Medicare population growth, right? We have all these baby boomers graduating into Medicare. We have higher medical costs, inflation, rising cost of supplies, tools, needs, right? We have the rising rates of all of these chronic conditions. It's going to more than double Medicare spending in constant dollars. In 2010, Medicare spent $507 billion with a B. But by the time we get to 2030, it's expected that Medicare will spend $1.2 trillion. That is more than double. Wow, that's a lot of money. So in other words, the cost of healthcare for your client, or if you are a beneficiary watching this, the cost of your healthcare is only getting increasingly expensive year over year. We got some time, so I'll go. I wasn't planning on showing these slides, but I'll jump into them. I'm going to just kind of review them real quick. But retirement savings, man, there is a notable variance in retirement savings, right? Some people have a lot of money, some people don't. And some people aren't prepared for retirement. I think that's kind of obvious there. Social Security dependency, that is a vital thing. I talk to seniors all the time that have no money except what they get through their Social Security. Social Security dependency is going to grow as their only income source. There's pension changes that are happening out there, right? Where a lot of people aren't getting the pen. Like many years ago, fat pensions were a common thing. Not so much anymore. There's income inequality happening, right? There's stark disparities, and you're going to see some of this stuff in the next report that I'm going to show you from Kaiser. Obviously, rising healthcare costs. We've already talked about some of this. And as much as I like to applaud the Inflation Reduction Act for helping reduce the cost of copayments when it comes to getting my drugs refilled or the seniors' drugs refilled, the Medicare beneficiaries' drugs refilled, that pressure, it's only going to push cost up in other areas. They're either going to have to reduce benefits, or they're going to have to increase premiums to offset the amount they're losing on the copay side. And plans are going to exit the market. Like we've already seen carriers pull out of the drug market altogether for next year, right? Mutual of Omaha said we're out. They were doing standalone drug plans, as I remember, in cooperation with WellCare with some help on that. Nah, they're out. They're not playing that game anymore. Why? Because of downward pressure from the Inflation Reduction Act that is causing them to be responsible for more of the cost from the PBM. Fairly simple. So I'm again of the opinion costs are going up on the other side of the equation. Longevity risk. I already talked about this, right? People are living longer. So if we're living longer, then again, costs are going up. Housing wealth is an issue that's out there, right? Debt levels. Most people are up to their ears in debt. I mean, I do all right, but I've still got some debt. I got a mortgage. I got a car note. Got a little bit of credit card debt. I'm not perfect. Economic shocks, things like the 2008 recession, things like, what happened during COVID, like all of those things happen and they create major strains on the economy, major strains on seniors because it disproportionately affects them. So another economic shock like that could only shoot spending up even more. Labor force participation, thankfully, that is actually, at least according to the Social Security Medicare Trustees report, they said, hey, labor force participation is actually higher than we expected it to be. And that's where they're saying some of that extra money comes from that now allows it to fund it all the way to 2033 at least. But long term, labor force participation should theoretically go down. And according to a survey of Consumer Finance as of 2022, the mean net worth of anybody aged 55 to 64 is $1.5 million, 65 to 74, 1.78. That next age bracket, which isn't shown here, it drops quite a bit, right? But it does go up right after you retire because they pull their money out, right? Their 401ks, IRAs, hopefully the investments, whatever they're doing. Mean household income between ages 55 to 64, 175. 65 to 74, 141. So while your net worth is higher after you turn 65, your mean income is certainly lower. And that's why that next age bracket mean net worth tends to start to drop again. Financial assets. Some of this kind of goes on with the mean net worth, right? At 55 to 64, the average senior has about $753K in financial assets. Once they cross the 65-year-old threshold, almost 900 grand, close to $1 million. No, we can't see all of this one, but basically says about 50% of Medicare beneficiaries have savings above $74,500. That means that 50% have savings below $74,000. So again, Social Security dependency, things of that nature, right? Problems. So that was some of the slides I wanted to show you there. I want to jump into this other item from Kaiser Family Foundation, and then we'll just wrap it up. But this was just released recently. I think this came out on the 30th. I'll pull this up for you to check out. Boom. This is 10 facts about women with Medicare. This is super important because, again, well, you'll see why. I'm getting ahead with some of my statements here. But 10 key facts about women with Medicare. And I think this is super important. If you are an agent that's servicing the Medicare space, this report should give you some really good insight on the types of products and who you really should be talking to about them. Okay? So think about that while we're going through this. And I'm not going to read every single detail, but I'm going to go through the 10 facts for you. Number one, more than half of all people with Medicare are women, a proportion that rises with age, right? So it's saying that more than half already are women, and as they get older, that proportion grows in the favor of women. Right now, about 55% of all Medicare beneficiaries are women. And as the group gets older, that proportion again grows. And you can see that in the graph down here, right? It shows that overall, this is everybody on Medicare on this top one, 55% are women, right? When you get in these latter age brackets, like at 75 to 84, well, it gets a little more, 56% are women. 85 plus, 63% are women. Women have a longer life expectancy, so that only makes sense, right? And why? Well, because generally women will prefer to go to the doctor to get checkups and make sure nothing's going to break down. Whereas men are the opposite. We wait until something does break down and then we finally go to the doctor. So our claims are increased, right? That's why prices for Medicare supplement plans are generally higher for men than they are females, because they take better care of themselves than men do. And therefore, we also have a lower life expectancy. So as the Medicare group gets older, the proportion of women to men certainly grows in the woman's favor. Number two, this is where it really starts to get important, in my opinion. Among women with Medicare, beneficiaries under age 65 with disabilities are more likely to be Black and Hispanic than women in the older age groups. Fairly simple there, and it shows it right here. This is specifically your under age 65 disabled Medicare recipients, right? If you're new to the Medicare space out there, right, Medicare is good for everybody over 65, but it's also good for people with certain disabilities. That's this group that they're talking about in this particular thing. They're saying that, hey, for all the people that are qualifying for Medicare under age 65 because of a disability, women overall make up a large chunk of that. And that group is going to grow. It's higher in the Hispanic and Black side than it is the white side. So pretty simple. Number three, women with Medicare are more likely to live alone in a facility. I'm going to say that again. Women with Medicare are more likely to live alone or in a facility than men. And the same is true for women ages 85 and older compared to younger women. So think about that, right? That is your short-term care products. That is your long-term care products. The things that is going to help that lady in that skilled nursing facility or help her get the home health care that she needs living alone, right? If you live alone, it's harder to take care of yourself the older you get. That's why Medicare supplement carriers incentivize household discounts because they believe that, hey, even if, as long as you live with someone, you're likely going to have better health because they can see you, they can keep an eye on you, they can look at you and go, hey, Fred, you don't look that good. Maybe you should go get checked in. But if you're by yourself, especially if you're a man, like you're like, oh, whatever. But I think this is super important because, and I can say this for a fact, my mom spent 4 months in a skilled nursing facility, right? I remember my grandmother, she lived a long time, but man, I'm pretty sure she lived, I can't remember when my grandfather died now, how old she was, but I want to say that my grandmother lived alone all the way from age 65 to 80, and probably even before she even qualified for Medicare at age 65. Right. So women with Medicare, again, that are more likely to live alone or in a facility than a man will. Right. So that makes them an excellent candidate to get long-term care or to get skilled nursing to take care of them, because that is exactly what this is saying. And I'll just go ahead and read this paragraph for you. It says, among Medicare beneficiaries, women are more likely than men to live alone, which may pose challenges as they grow older and are at greater likelihood of needing long-term care services and supports. More than 1/3 of all women, 36%, live alone. More than 1/3 of all women with Medicare already live alone, and that is rising to more than half by the time you get to age 85 and older. So women ages 85 and older are also considerably more likely than women ages 65 to 84 to live in a facility. 11% to 1. They're 11 times more likely to live in a facility when you're 85 or older than when you're 84 and younger. That includes nursing homes, assisted living facilities, and other long-term care facilities. Medicare only offers limited time coverage for skilled nursing facilities, 100 days, and does not typically cover long-term care. So those stats right there should be telling you that, like, hey, for my female Medicare clients, I really need to be talking about short and long-term care products to help them, because 36% of them already live alone. And as they get older, they're more likely to get moved into a facility. Number 4, I'll speed this up a little bit. Women are more likely than men to be enrolled in Medicare Advantage. And among women, Medicare Advantage enrollment rates are higher for dual eligible Medicare and Medicaid, as well as women who are Black and Hispanic. And then it says down here, in 2021, 49% of women covered by Medicare were enrolled in a Medicare Advantage plan, significantly higher than men at 46%. I don't know if that's significant, but it's definitely 3% higher. And it says that the share of all eligible beneficiaries enrolled in Medicare Advantage has increased and now exceeds 50%. Larger shares of Black and Hispanic women with Medicare were enrolled in Medicare Advantage. White women, Black people, 68%. Hispanic women, 63%, white women, 44%, right, are enrolled in Medicare Advantage plans. And then you look at the stats right there, it'll show you, right? The women under 65 with Medicare are dual eligible. 59% of them enrolled in a dual eligible plan. Number 5, per capita income is lower for women with Medicare than men, and it declines with age, and it's substantially lower for Black and Hispanic than white women. Look at these numbers. So this is their per capita income, right? We know that it's lower for women than men, 33 versus 38. And then and this is our under 65 numbers, or under 65 at 23. This is women. When they hit Medicare, right, 38 to 150 is the average, but as they get older, you see that it drops. And then if you look at it based on ethnicity, Hispanic folks are pulling up the bottom there, 18,750. So if you're an Hispanic woman with Medicare, the data says that your per capita income is substantially lower. And that number, I mean, it certainly depends on the state, but like in Texas, I don't think that number qualifies, certainly didn't qualify for full Medicaid. So if I'm an Hispanic woman in Texas, I'm struggling. I should be getting some extra help. I should be getting some form of low-income subsidy to help me. But I'm definitely dependent on that Social Security payment and certainly my benefits to help me out. Number 6, per capita savings are lower for women than men. And Black and Hispanic women with Medicare have substantially lower savings than white women. So again, same concept. This is real similar to the other one, right? They have lower income. Of course, they're going to have lower savings. The two just kind of go hand in hand. And we'll give you some numbers here. This is per capita savings. Yeah. These numbers down here are the ones that bug me. And I'm assuming, yeah, it's women with Medicare, white, 141,000 in savings, Black, 19,300, Hispanic, 16,350. That's your average per capita savings based on ethnicity. Number 7, more than half of women with Medicare under age 65 and ages 85 and older have a functional impairment. These women experience higher rates of cognitive impairment, right? So again, that goes back to that statistic of living alone or living in a facility. Women are very much more likely. And again, here they are. More than half of women with Medicare under 65 and ages 85 or older have cognitive impairment issues. So that increases that need for skilled nursing, long-term care, etc. And then they have it all graphed out here for you. Number 8. Black and Hispanic women with Medicare report poorer health status and have higher rates of cognitive and functional impairments than white women. So this is functional impairment. Remember I said earlier that already, right now, 25% of Medicare beneficiaries can't do at least one activity of daily living. Right? That's transferring from bed to the wheelchair, wheelchair to toilet. That's bathing, eating, dressing, etc. Right? And then it shows the statistics, and this is specifically based on women. This is specifically women. So 27% have a functional impairment if you're white, 38% if you're Black, 38% also if you're Hispanic. Already have at least one functional ADL limitation. And then cognitive impairment, pretty high. And as they continue to get older, it only gets worse. Number 9, among women with Medicare, heart disease, Alzheimer's, dementia, and incontinence are more common among those 85 and older. Depression, lung disease, and diabetes are more common for those under age 65. The diabetes one I understood. I'm surprised lung disease and depression are in there. That's kind of interesting. So looking at that again, if you're 85 or older, it's more likely that you have heart disease, Alzheimer's, dementia, and incontinence. If you're 65 and under on Medicare, it's more likely that you suffer from depression, lung disease, and diabetes. And then all of the little graphs there you can check out. And again, I'm going to get all these articles in our group over there at Insurance Syndicate. You can check it out. And the final one, number 10, a similar share of women and men with Medicare report healthcare cost problems. Among women, they are most commonly reported by those who are low income, under age 65, or in fair or poor health. Well, certainly if you're low income, you're going to complain about cost problems. And I don't know that stat there is all that enlightening, but there you go. Cost-related challenges are certainly increased with people on low income. So, and it goes through some of the statistics there as well. So, some interesting stuff, man. I'm going to get this stuff posted in the group for you. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you so much. As always, I do the show every Tuesday. I generally don't do it on my public page, right? Because this is generally a show meant directly for agents. Not that we're hiding anything from you out there, Medicare beneficiaries, but, you know, we tend to keep this in our group. So as Joe and I work out the kinks on how we can properly stream in that group while still being able to share slides, share material, and do our thing. We've got the camera hooked up. We just don't have the ability to stream through StreamYard where we can actually add things to the stage as like these slides and different things like that, right? Doesn't allow us to do all that. So we'll continue doing the show. Look for changes. But I appreciate you guys tuning in, man. Have an awesome Tuesday. Have a great week. I'm super excited because I get to go see one of my favorite bands tonight, Steel Pulse. famous reggae band. They're like the Rolling Stones of reggae. They've been around since the 60s. They're still playing. They're still touring. And I get their first show in Austin that I can ever remember seeing. I'm going to see it tonight. Have a great one. We'll see you on the flip side. Adios.